Hey, let's get started. Welcome to this Q&A session for the Angular Architect Seminar. Today is the 12th of September 2019. And there's a couple of house rules. To ask a question, please type in the chat, I have a question, and we'll get you unmuted. And there'll be a 10-minute threshold for questions per attendee, so everyone can get the help they need. And let's just get started. So if you have a question, just type in the chat and we will get you unmuted. I have Kevin who has a question. And Kevin, you're unmuted.
Yeah, I just want to talk. If you could talk a little more about the. Sorry, I want to make sure I have the right term. The feature toggling.
Yeah.
I just want to. I don't understand. So, I guess you're putting in additional functionality, and then you're using the directives and to kind of take it in or out. Is that and based on permission? Like, I guess if that's what I want to make sure I understand the use of it.
Yeah. You can actually just see it in the code here. So yeah, we had this inside of the util lib. I added these helpers here for feature toggling.
Yeah.
And there are these different parts to it. So that's just how we hook it into the system. So we have the feature toggle API, or the GUI, for example, could be you just sign up to launch Darkly, and then you have something where you can get the feature toggles from. And then you have the service here, which is the core of the feature toggle logic, where the other parts here are using the service. And here you basically just have two methods that does everything. You can get feature flags here, which is called once. Upon startup of the application, you just call this, and then that will make sure to set the enable features here. And then you can just do this check here. And where do we do the checks? Well, we can do it here if you needed to do it here, but most likely we are either if you're doing some feature toggling in the UI, we use this directive here. And if also we might want to have a route that is disabled, for example, here where I'm disabling a navigation item, I also want to make sure you can't go to the specific route. So we do that here with can activate is disabling that. And also we want to make sure that you cannot even load the bundle. So that is, this one is enabling that because this is a lazy loaded bundle. And then we have the preloading strategy that's just being more efficient with the bandwidth. So we're not wasting users' bandwidth by trying to download features that are not enabled for them.
And then so then you just do the flags for, like, so for instance, your development, you might enable something, one of the features.
Yeah.
That's the intent of it, right?
Yeah, it is. And you probably shouldn't do it if you are like refactoring or just doing something that is really tangled into a lot of existing code, because that's going to be hard to just toggle out. But if you're doing a new feature, the normal workflow is that you do something on the front end, which needs some data on the back end, and then you need to keep the releases of the front end and back end in sync. So by using feature toggling here, and then just as you develop the new feature, you just start wrapping it in. For example, you could just apply this directive here to the new component you're creating, and then just make sure it isn't enabled before the backend is ready. So that would be a good use case for it. A bad use case for using feature toggles would be that you do some refactoring of existing code, and then you have like two duplicates of a big chunk of the code base to enable feature toggling and enable the new one, which might not even really be modifying functionality, but it's just like refactoring and just like prettifying the code. So that will be a bad scenario to use feature toggling. So yeah, but it's a very common thing. We have this dependency on the backend, and then we can't deploy the front end and such. So it's really a big relief to be able to just deploy independently this way.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I needed. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And then we have Deepak. I'll just get you unmuted. And you are now unmuted.
Hi, Christian. I'm audible?
Hey. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? I can hear
I'm
you.
okay. Uh, my question, just a follow-up question. We have already implemented this feature toggling in our project. But here we also maintain a JSON file with the details, which features we are enabling, and some more generality on access level which user can access as well. In case some we want to release for just a set of users, so we can use it in this way. But here I can understand, using this approach we do not have any static data regarding features that are going to be enabled or disabled.
What do you mean you don't have any static data?
Yeah, regarding the features name, which features has to be enabled. Is this approach we have taken in this code?
Well, why is it not static? What do you do? So by static, you mean like for this example here, I have a static JSON file here because this is what I in the lesson call the poor man's feature toggling, which is the cheapest and easiest way to get started, but it's also pretty limited to both convenience and for users. And yeah, it's static. Is that what you mean with static?
No, I mean like we want to just there are three sub we can say there are three sub business parts on a dashboard, and for example like initiative, opportunity, my opportunity. So I want to just release my opportunity, not initiative. So somewhere we are having one file maintaining as a my opportunity is enabled, but opportunity initiative is disabled. So this way we maintained. So is this the right way doing, or some best approach according to the code you are just sharing with us?
So you have a file for the feature of toggling?
Yes, yes. And there we maintain the the feature which is not going to be features that are disabled.
All right, and what kind of file is that? How do you organize the data in that file?
It is a JSON file,
Okay.
and there we have features name and their status.
Yeah, yeah. In the lesson, I talked about that having it just in a file like this. And do you also have it in the file that is? Where's the file hosted? Is that hosted in the assets folder like this, or do you have some other place to host it?
As a separate shared data.
So it's on a separate server. The file,
No,
but
no,
it's
inside this application only. Inside the application, we have a shared folder
yeah.
having the data files.
Okay, yeah. Then basically you have the same poor man's feature toggling as I'm having here, and with that, it's cheap and it's easy to get started with, but it's pretty limited because you cannot change the runtime functionality without redeploying in that sense here. And or you might be able to go in if you went into the uh, file explorer on the server and then just went into to look at the assets folder. For example, if I went in here, look at assets, and then I just went in here and then I just manually changed this one here, then I could do it, but I might have two replicas of the front end, and now I need to change it in two places, and otherwise it would start to work funky. And so it's pretty limited and it's not very convenient to change. So if that's for some starting out, that's it's good enough for your needs. Depending on what your needs are for feature toggling, how much you need to change and how often you need to change them, and who need to change them to. It's okay with the developer doing this trick, just going in and doing like this. Are you fine with doing a redeployment? So you just have a feature toggling as more like a convenient code design way of doing it. So you just know you have all the toggles in one place here, and then you can do it, but you still need to redeploy. So what are your actually use cases for using feature toggles?
It is during the deployment. Sometime, as you also highlighted, sometime we have to dependency on backend system, and backend system is not ready, but our UI front end is ready. So due to not data unavailability, we have to not release to the end user, but our development is complete. So in that case, we use these features. Or
Okay,
sometimes we have to not give access to some set of user. So there are two common use case we usually have.
and how often do you need to turn it on and off? And I guess because you need a deployment each time.
One case is like always, means on user basis, means support user needs some
I mean,
different.
is this something, do you change the feature toggles every day? Is it something you do a couple of times a day, or is it only like a couple of times a month? How often do you need to change them?
No, it's maybe once in a month, or
Okay,
means it is a long time, not
yeah,
every sprint.
okay. In this case, I think you're fine just having the poor man's feature toggling, because it's and just keeping it very simple like this, and then just deal with the redeployment. If you had something where you basically did it all the time and you had a lot of stuff, for example, you did a lot of split testing and stuff, and you wanted to really have a lot of options for enabling canary releases and enabling features for different segments. You might even have some beta users that need to be enabled. If you need to have all these features, then this is not good enough. But if you just have the silent deployments once a month, then I guess this will be a fair trade-off, because it's so simple to set up. So
Okay. In
I'll just keep doing that until you get more complex needs, and this starts to hurt.
So in case of canary release, how should we take approach?
Well, it's gonna be, you're probably not gonna do it like this, because this needs a redeployment every time, and you're not gonna redeploy like 5% and redeploy 10% and redeploy and such. So you need a system to do that, and then launch darkly is probably the easiest way to do that. You just get a license for that, and then you just get started with that. Or you could also just implement this logic on your own feature toggle API. So you just need to upgrade to one of the other options from the lessons.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, the
So
easiest thing is just grab launch darkly, and then that's built in and launch darkly. Both the user segments and canary releases for percentage rollouts, it's all built in. You will get it started right away, and then you just go into the service, your feature toggle service here, and just you will just inside of this here, you will just make sure that it uses the launch darkly client to fetch the features, and then this can basically just stay the same once you have passed that down to the enabled features. So you don't need to change much really. That's the beauty of having an abstraction here, and you can change when you need to do the upgrade. You can change it, because if you want canary releases, you will need to do the upgrade. Yeah.
okay. Thanks. One more question I have. It is regarding the Git hook. So in case of monorepo, we have multiple projects, and each project wise we need to apply some different kind of linting. So how, and some other like commit on commit before commit and after commit, some different logic we want to apply. So in that case, how we should uh, create the file, because as per understanding it is single file under the root workspace. So in case of multiple project, which file should be created, or what kind of modification we should take care?
The way that let's just say TSLint. How that works is that if you place a TSLint file here, then on the same level and on all sublevels, it will apply these rules. Then if we go down to a sublevel here, for example, in the to-do app here, this one can override. You can see we extend the rules here, and then we can override them here. So that means when the linter comes down here, then from all on this level here from the app, and all the subfolders will now use this rule here. So if you have different projects that have different TSLint needs, you will just place a TSLint file here and just make sure you extend. You probably want to extend the base rule still, and then you can just override how you want it to work down here.
No, in case of that file related to Git file, a prettier and a Husky file, the file
Yeah.
which we have.
You want to have a specific Husky configuration for each?
Yes. Yes.
That's not gonna happen, because how Husky works is it's hooking in to the Git hooks. So let me see if I can find it here. I don't know, but it might be a hidden folder, the .git folder. You'll see in the .git folder,
Yeah, that is.
It's, and because we have one repository, so what Husky is doing when you install it, it's gonna hook into the Git hooks and then make sure that when you call, then the different Git hooks triggers, it makes sure to trigger. Where's my Husky file? Right here.
Yes, right.
It will trigger these. So as long as this is one repository, only these will be triggered.
So a common configuration will be applicable to all projects.
It will be all, yeah. So if you do, it doesn't matter where you do the commit, this will be triggered every time. And there's no real option to ignore it. I looked into that as well, but you just have to deal with it. This is going to be triggered every time. But what you could do is, for example, with lint states, you could do some more specific rules here. That is, maybe you can do for specific paths. So if you want to ignore this for some paths, you could just specify another club expression here. For example, here I'm doing apps and libs. But for example, if I only want to run this for lib for auth, for example, then I just did like this, and then make sure it didn't apply for all the libs, but only this one. So that might be able to save you here. So you're not gonna get around that the Husky script is being, if it's hooked up to pre-commit, then pre-commit is always being triggered regardless of where you do the commit in the monorepo. But you can then do these lint states club expressions here to maybe just ignore. If you want to ignore prettier for some projects, you just change the club expression here.
Okay. And in case of DevOps, if we can we run the, like, after commit means merge, or after checking the code, according to this file, we can run only the changes, a staged file which we have done the change in which file, and that relative test case will run. But sometime we have our changes works fine related to this change, all test run executed exactly, but other modules test start failing. So in this case, running the, like, test on only a staged file does not have a right result. So what do you suggest uh, to overcome such kind of situation?
Well, for tests, you can use the built-in commands here for this one. It's still gonna, so if you use this one, for example, the affected test, which I recommend doing on the pull requests, like you see here, for example, you take the diff between master and then, but still, yeah, you're running a little more tests than just the files that are changed. So what you can do here is, if you start breaking your architecture down in smaller libraries, then this command will run more refined on only the libs that are actually affected. So that's actually the only thing you can do with NX monorepo. That's how they support that. You can do only run test, only run builds, only run end-to-end on the affected parts.
Okay. Okay. So that's all question from my side, Christian. Thank you.
But actually, there might, let me see if you would, let me just check one thing. There might be another way you could do something. So just check here. Oh. Because there might be a way to pass down files here. Files to run. No, it doesn't seem like that. And so, yeah, what the novel way of doing it is just using the affected commands here for the more precise test. I was looking at if there were a way to pass down arguments for the test spec files to run. I guess if you use pure Karma and Jasmine, there might be a way to do it, but now we are through this Angular abstraction layer, so they might not pass that all the way down. So it's more limited what we can do, because when we run the lint states commands, we are appending a list of all the stage files, so we could do something like that. But yeah, it's what we are dealing with here, just using the affected commands. All right, that's all your questions?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And do we have any other questions? Could be either regarding the week's content or something else you have been dealing with that might be tricky and you want some feedback on it. It seemed like that was all the questions for this time. All right. Cool. Yeah, I know this week has probably been a lot of work with actually setting up the right pipeline for and doing all these changes here. Oh, we got another question here. So Milan, I'll just get you unmuted. It doesn't seem like you have any sound connected. You don't have a microphone connected. I cannot unmute you. Just make sure you have connected your microphone. And oh yeah, that's two apparently. Yeah, great. Hey.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, excellent. I am a little behind to create the repository on my end, and I need to do some catch up on the annex library that you are using here. Would there, what kind of kickstart could you give me? Like, could you do something like 5 minutes? This is how you said do a annex repository of your application. I didn't have time so far to read it all onto it. So complete newbie question here.
All right, yeah, we can just walk through it together how it works. So yeah, I sent you just NX workspace. Get started. I think I sent you a link, like you're starting with this, and then you can, for example, you can install this globally, and so
okay,
you get started. You can just do this. And then just doing this, it will prompt you. I can just show you here if I have a new command prompt here. So I don't know if I have npx installed actually. I have, yeah. So actually this will start doing a lot of stuff now and setting this workspace up. And
so this is like
and
my workspace where you put stuff in, and then here.
Yeah, exactly. Then it prompts me, and then because we're working with Angular, we want an Angular one.
Good.
We could also, if you wanted some Node backend, the like industry standard today is to use Angular and Nest, because it's like similar syntax. It's Nest syntax is inspired from the Angular syntax, so you're gonna get a front end and back end which harmonize really good together, and the code looks a lot the same in both places. So doing this, we'll already get the workspace set up with 2 projects, one for the Angular app and one for the Node backend with Nest. But here we probably just want the Angular one. And we could also take an empty one, which just basically just sets up the Angular JSON file and some schematics and stuff. And then we need to just using Angular CLI to just create the different apps. But let's just take this one here. So we can just take this one here, and could just be, you can call this like QA
Thursday test, or
demo, yeah, something like that. And then we just, I recommend using SAS here. So we just take this one here and get started with that. And then we will keep going. Now, this is also called a sandbox. It's pretty dangerous to use the term sandbox. I figured it's such an overloaded term. But here, yeah, it will give us a pretty good foundation here. You see, it'll set up with Jest and set up the project here. And then I'll show you another.
I've seen coming directly from the Angular CLI itself. What is the difference between the Angular CLI setup and the one we're looking at right now in Annex? What will be the additional features that we'll get through this? This is the point I'm still running behind.
Yeah, so there are these schematics inside of Narwhal, which just wraps the Angular CLI one, so they can do the same as Angular CLI. What did we call this one? QA. What did I call this one?
QA demo, I believe.
Well, it's not here, is it?
My workspace, sorry.
My workspace, okay. Yeah.
It used the initial one.
Yeah, okay. This is now working. So I'll just go in now. Just find like up here. Here I can just take this my workspace. I'll just drag it down here. So now we got it here. And then, yeah, actually the easiest thing to do then also is you can get this. You can use Angular CLI directly, or you can use go in here in VS Code extensions, and then I recommend getting Angular console, because when we get this one here, so for example, when we want to add something here, like we want to create a new library. Let's just see here. It's not this one, Angular console. This one. Then we can use this generate here. Should open something. Maybe I'm not in the right space here. Does it work with the other one? Okay. But yeah, you asked what does this include otherwise, and what is already included in the Angular CLI. So what this gives us is that it gives us these commands here, like these effective commands here. So we can, for example, run the affected builds, so we can make sure to only build the affected projects. We can make sure to only run end-to-end tests on the affected projects. We can do tests and such on only affected projects and linting and all that. So normally with Angular CLI, you would just have wrappers you will just do this, for example. This is just Angular CLI, but then this is the NX extensions to it. And then there are some helpers that we also include. For example, I have one for pessimistic updates and optimistic update. One for optimistic updates. Optimistic update NX. I can just show you that. Yeah, there's this one here. So they have some extended functionality where you can include stuff like this, and then you have some way to do some helper to do this kind of optimistic updates. You can do that. But the main reason why we use NX is just for these affected commands, really. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't use. It would just be Angular CLI, because having this structure here with libs and apps. Yeah. It's completely supported by just Angular CLI.
Is not, apps and libs isn't done in Angular CLI, is it? The libs doesn't come with the Angular. I mean, we have to do it manually, but it's not coming for free. Like when you have an empty app, it doesn't create the lib folder to my.
Yeah, that's right. Correctly. Yeah, we don't get the scaffolded as nicely as this one. We need to just organize this ourselves, but it is supported here. Just how all this works, this is just Angular CLI, but then we use the novel NX schematics instead.
And then maybe now coming back to your architecture, if we want now in libs to create our what was it that we have on the top? So if we create new items in the lib, how would we do that?
So you could do, so let's say let's say we have this QA demo here, and then we want an library for that. So we can just do ng genu. Let me see, ng new. Let me just find the command. For some reason, normally I can use this one here. I can just actually try to restart it, because normally I just use the. This might make it work again. Yeah, now I think it works better. Yeah, and now it works. I don't know, it was just frozen before. So actually the easiest way, I can go in here. What the hell is that? And then I can just search for library here. You can see there are different ways to do libraries, create a new library. So there's the Angular way, and then there's the novel workspace library, and then there's schematics Angular. And this is almost the same. The difference is that in Angular, we're not allowed to have a library inside of a library. We are allowed to do that with novel. So it is almost the same thing. But then the easiest way to create a new library is just doing like this. So it already will create it inside of a library folder. We just name it here. So it could be a QA demo lib. And we can then see here, it does this dry run here where we can see where it ends up at, and it's inside libs. And then we might be like, all right, that looks fine. And then we can just configure it. So we just are like, okay, what test boundary do we want to use? And yeah, here is actually only set up with gist. That's what they prefer, and to be honest, it is also the better one to use. It's faster and it has more features than the Karma one. So normally you can choose between both, but for this scaffold version here, we actually only have jest installed, so it will be just here. We can set the tags here. We'll automatically set them to the NX file. So that is inside of this, which is also NX specific, and where we have all the tags here, so we can then enforce the different constraints, dependency constraints we do here. So in short, if you ask what does NX actually provide, then I would say affected commands here, TSLint rules here for enforcing dependency constraints.
So for example, if we want to enforce, just quickly on the, because the dependency enforcement is very cool. If we want to enforce that the lib cannot access anything from the apps part,
that's built in
this
already. But yeah,
this is built in already.
That's built in already. But you could, for example, have, for example, you saw my the whole blueprint for monorepos, how for example a utility library should be able to access a data access library. So you set these constraints. Yeah, you can just go rewatch the video how to do that.
That's fine, that's fine.
I said that inside of TSLint. Yeah, you saw. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, no
so
problem.
the affected component and then the
TSLint.
jest. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, the affected component TSLint, and then there are the extra builders for Angular JSON. One of them are jest, for example. You can see here. If I go to one of the test libraries here, you can see here it supports these ones that are not built into Angular. For example, Jest and Cypress. Normally, when you create a new Angular CLI project, you cannot use these. You might need to find some. You need to find some new builder for this. For example, like this here. So this builder makes sure it has a way to hook into the Angular ecosystem and enables you to use, for example, Jest instead of Karma and Jasmine, and use Cypress instead of Protractor. And normally these two tools here, they are way better than the ones that are included by Angular CLI with Karma and Jasmine and Protractor. So so that's why they also prefer them and set them some default here. They're winning over as the new industry standard because they are so much better than the other ones.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, cool. All right. I'll just let you know if you have any more questions now. Then seems like that was it. All right. See you next time.